Hey folks, Nathan here from Star Wars Beyond the Films and the Star Wars Gaming Podcast Cloud City Casino, which you can find at StarWarsReport.com. Bringing you a look here at Fantasy Flight Games' new Star Wars X-Wing starter set. This is the second edition, or 2.0, making it the third starter set that we've gotten for X-Wing, because yes, they did that soft relaunch a little bit around the time of The Force Awakens. So we're going to take a look here first at the core set. So of course you have your core set box, and you have your revised rule book, which will give you all that you need to be able to jump into X-Wing 2.0. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the new mechanics involved, but we will be taking a look at some of them as I describe what certain new tokens and whatnot mean. So, beyond the rule book and the box, let's dive into the core set. Now we have ourselves a set of quick start rules, as is usually the case, and a quick ad about other things that can be added as an expansion, and an ad for those conversion kits on the back, and our little booklet of, hey, here's some other stuff from Fantasy Flight Games. Then we have tons and tons of game pieces we're going to need, along with some cards, of course. We'll take a look at the individual ships included in the core set here in a moment. Let's check out our maneuver templates here. We have 11 of them. We have 5 straight ones of speeds 1 through 5. And then, of course, we have our different types of banks or turns here, okay, which, of course, are 1, 2, or 3. You'll notice here that the Choyogran turns and the Talon rolls are marked there as well to help you match up with whatever maneuver you are trying to pull off based on your ship's maneuver dial. We have our range ruler of 1, 2, and 3, red on one side, green on the back, as usual. This is our first player token, so you go by initiative, and if that is tied, you go by player order, and whoever has this is the first player. 3 defense dice and 3 attack dice, as we're used to. Then we have here hyperspace tokens. We have a 1 with a 3 on the back, a 2 with a 4 on the back. Notice there the different symbols on that. These are used for a new mode called Escalation, where you're battling against ships of different threat levels as that threat level escalates until you have wiped out a certain threat level worth of ships. So kind of a cool way to use the quick build options and whatnot to play a fast but unusual game of X-Wing. We have our damage deck here. Now there are 30 of them, and bear in mind that these damage cards, which now have this on the back, these damage cards are the only small cards out of the ones that we get in 2.0 thus far, really. Most of the cards are going to be full size instead of a bunch of them like upgrade cards being this size. We usually wouldn't go into detail on the damage cards, but just to be on the safe side here, let's talk. What do we have? We have 2 panicked pilot, 2 blinded pilot, 2 wounded pilot, 2 damaged engine, 2 console fire, 2 stunned pilot, 2 weapons failure, 2 hull breach, 2 structural damage, 2 disabled power regulator, 2 loose stabilizer, 2 damage sensor array. We then have 4 fuel leak and 5 direct hit. We then have 6 obstacle tokens, 3 of each of 2 types. The asteroid tokens are basically, after executing a maneuver, ship rolls 1 attack die, and on a regular damage result, it suffers 1 damage. On a critical result, it suffers 1 critical damage, and then regardless of the roll, the ship skips its perform action step for that round, and then during the engagement phase, if a ship is at range 0 of an asteroid, it can't perform an attack. But then these aren't asteroids, these are debris clouds. After executing a maneuver, the ship gains 1 stress token and rolls 1 attack die, and on a critical result, the ship suffers 1 critical damage. That's it. Okay, so 2 different types of obstacles here. We get 3 of each. Again, asteroid and debris cloud. We have our proof of purchase. And these are what are called position markers. Basically, if you're trying to take a ship through the position of another ship, and that's difficult, you need to be able to mark where the original ship was before you move it out of the way so you can continue your maneuver, and you use these to do so, which is a nice touch, I think. Then we have our various tokens, and they basically color-coded these and done different shapes, okay? The shapes, basically if it's a circle, it disappears at the end of a turn, essentially. But then the various square ones all disappear and appear based on different circumstances defined by the token type. So we have 4 focus tokens, 3 evade tokens. That next pair there, red on one side, purple on the other, those are what are called force charges. Certain abilities let you spend those and regain those to be able to use certain abilities. And then that circular one there, that is the disarm token. We have ID tokens for our ships in Sets of 3 as usual, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 here, white on one side, black on the other. Our shield tokens now don't just get put out or disappear, they're either blue side or red side. Blue means active, red means not, so we have our shield tokens here. We have 5 stress tokens, that's 4 shield tokens, in case I didn't count them. That next set there with the lightning bolt has yellow on one side or orange on one side and red on the other. Those are called charge tokens or standard charge tokens. Same kind of thing as force charges, except they're not force abilities, they're just regular abilities. Then we have 3 critical hit tokens, 3 ion tokens, and then up here, these are our new lock tokens, right? So our target locks will no longer be 2 different tokens with matching letters on them where you put one next to the ship that's locking and one next to the ship that it's locked onto. Instead, you're going to put one of these next to the ship that got locked onto with the number matching whatever ship number it is that carried out the lock. So you're going to have your 1 through 6 here to identify the ship, but then also your target lock tokens just in case, for those same numbers, you have a target lock carried out by one of the ships numbered in whatever ID tokens came with the set. All right, now let's take a look at the ships that are in this new core set. As we saw with the last couple of core sets, it's 1 X-Wing and 2 TIE Fighters. We're back to the T-65s, though, from the original core set thematically here, so Rebel Alliance and Empire. So there's our X-Wing. We're going to come back to this, okay? But we have here our new ship cards for our pilots. We have Luke Skywalker, Red Squadron Veteran, Jek Porkins, and Blue Squadron Escort. Of course, we have our ship tokens that are going to give us Luke on one side, Red Squadron Veteran on the other, Jek on one side, Blue Squadron Escort on the other. And then these cards are our quick build cards that are basically going to tell us, if we're doing quick build, essentially what we put upgrade-wise with Luke or Red Squadron Veteran or whomever in order to make them viable at a threat level indicated by the little colored markers there. So Luke Skywalker is threat level 3 if he has instinctive aim, proton torpedoes, R2-D2, and servomotor S-foils. Red Squadron Veteran, on the other hand, is only a threat 2 with Predator, R5 Astromech, and servomotor S-foils, and so on and so on. Now, speaking of servomotor S-foils, that's this upgrade card. We're going to look at other upgrade cards here in a minute, but this one is the one for the X-Wing. Okay, so you would start out, perhaps, with it closed, right? So servomotor S-foils closed. When you perform a primary attack, roll 1 fewer attack die. Before you activate, you may flip this card, right? And you got your different items noted there, abilities and whatnot. So flip it. Before you activate, you may flip this card, right? So basically, if you're flying with your S-foils not in attack position, you get a disadvantage to your attack, but more maneuverability. But before you activate, you can flip that sucker and open them, or flip them to close them, okay? And of course, we have our ship ID token. And then this is our new maneuver dial type. We've seen this with a couple of previous videos, but basically you've got one side that's thematic with the name of the ship, and then the other side has all your maneuvers on it, and instead of it being that there's only one maneuver showing, you're just moving it and turning it until the little marker there is pointing toward the maneuver that you want, and before you reveal it, it's like that. Once you reveal it, it's like that. So a very different look to the maneuver dials, although they are assembled in a similar way. Now, I said we come back to the miniature here. This is one very disappointing thing to me about this version of X-Wing, though I'm sure your mileage will vary. So it's kind of cool that we have the ability to open and close the S-foils using the upgrade card. And if you look at our small-scale ship here, our X-Wing, notice they're closed. You can basically squeeze the back, and now they're open. Pretty cool. Or squeeze the back, and now they're closed. Pretty neat. Here's the problem. When they're closed, they wobble like mad. So you could have your X-Wing looking like this, or looking like this, instead of looking like it's supposed to. It's, I guess, a small price to pay for the fact that you can actually open and close the S-foils now, but it does make them look kind of stupid when the S-foils are closed. You'll probably not spend much time with them closed, though, relative to open, as, again, it does put a hamper on your attack. It's more for maneuvering when you would want to close them. Then we have our regular TIE fighters, or our TIE LN models here. So we have our TIEs. Comes with two. Pilot-wise, we have Iden Versio, Night Beast, and 2 copies of Obsidian Squadron Pilot, who all have their own little quick build card, right? Iden and Night Beast are threat level 2, Obsidian is threat level 1. Valen Rudor, 2 Black Squadron Ace cards, and 2 Academy Pilots with their own quick build card, again, threat levels of 2 and 1. We have our maneuver dials, one for each, of course, that's the Imperial theme there. We have our dial ID tokens, and then, of course, we have our ship tokens. Iden with Black Squadron Ace on the back, Valen Rudor with Obsidian Squadron Pilot on the back, Night Beast with Academy Pilot on the back, and 2 of each. Now, it does behoove us to take a quick look at our tokens here. Notice we now have markers to divide the front and back halves, to divide the left and right sides. That dot basically down the center vertically there is to help you with partially executed maneuvers. We have our primary firing arc, but notice that it's divided up so that you essentially have a forward, rear, left, and right firing arc area. Just depends on what is shaded. Here we have it shaded green because it is Imperial red for the Rebels. But notice even within your firing arc, you have sort of this more narrow little arc or a little area inside it. So the broader one, the big triangular area, that is your main firing arc. But you have a bullseye arc, when in this case going straight ahead, which gives you a bonus. So our ship tokens are slightly different to allow a little bit more finesse in your firing. We have 1 X-Wing and 2 TIE Fighters in this new core set. All right, finally let's talk other upgrade cards here. Some of them you'll notice are marked for a specific type of ship, like small or medium ship, or Rebel, as in the case there. You also notice that they all have their symbol off to the left, and most of the card off to the right. Basically, you're supposed to stick this underneath your ship card so that what's sticking out is that right hand 2/3 or so. So you have your card, and it has its game text. Some of them then have symbols off to the side, like the number of charges or charge limit that's available, which is kind of like having a certain amount of ammo. In some cases, you'll find one of those charge limits that have a little triangle next to it pointing upward that lets you know that you can recharge it. Sometimes you'll run into weapons, right, that are going to have to indicate the dice that you roll. It's going to have to indicate the range. It's going to have to indicate what firing arc. It's going to have to indicate whether or not you get bonuses from range and that sort of thing. All that information is now off here to the right, just like on this one, to the right of the main card text. Okay, so we have Elusive, Outmaneuver, Predator, and then we get into this category of using those force charges, hence that icon there, something new to spend. 2 copies of Heightened Perception, 2 of Sense, 2 of Supernatural Reflexes, and just 1 of Instinctive Aim. We have some droids, R2 Astromech, R2D2, R3 Astromech, R5 Astromech, and R5D8. And then we have our Afterburners, Hull Upgrade, and Shield Upgrade. And notice, again, what is it doing? Well, it has it there on the side, adding 1 to hull value, adding 1 shield token, and so on. So easy to use, easy to keep track of everything, but they are large cards now instead of small ones. Now before we go, let me point out a little pre-order bonus that you might have gotten, and let me apologize. Earlier I believe I said there were 30 damage cards in the regular damage deck. It is 33, as is the case here. If you pre-ordered 2.0, you could get yourself this, a T65 X-Wing damage deck. It is regular size, not small like the regular damage cards. That's just essentially the thing telling you what it is. And all it is basically is another damage deck. It's the exact same effects, exact same names on all the cards for your damage deck. The back side is essentially the same symbol as the regular damage deck. The difference is that it specifies the part of a T65 X-Wing that would be affected by that attack. So for instance, loose stabilizer, where is that? It's showing you down there at the bottom. Or a disabled power regulator, or a hull breach, or structural damage, or wounded pilot there in the cockpit, and so on. It's the exact same damage deck. It's not a big deal if you want to use this thing, but it is pretty cool to be able to show us where in the ship the damage could be. And because they're specifying one type of ship, you would assume that they could do tons of promo damage decks like these without altering the game, but using different ships each time to make for a cool little nifty experience. So there you have it, X-Wing 2.0's brand new core set for this second edition. In the upcoming videos on this playlist, we'll be checking out the individual ships that have been released for 2.0, along with the conversion kits. We've already looked at Lando's Millennium Falcon, though, so check that out previously in the playlist.